Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. Derek Chauvin's appeal for the murder of George Floyd might hinge on possible jury misconduct. How Chauvin's case could be similar to convicted wife killer Scott Peterson's.
They're very similar in terms of what the allegations are.
The trial begins for a former Florida sheriff's deputy accused of planting drugs on unsuspecting motorists. The shocking promise his defense made in openings.
You will hear from Zachary Wester.
And Georgia's citizen arrest law is overhauled after the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. One of the three defendants are now expected to stand trial. Plus, an Ohio man admits on the stand to killing his roommate and burning the body, but tells the jury it was in self-defense.
Any normal person that had a gun pointing at him is going to go get one.
Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Brian Buckmire along with Terri Austin. Juror misconduct is one reason Derek Chauvin is arguing for a new trial in the death of George Floyd. Law&Crime's Angenette Levy spoke with an attorney who says the Chauvin juror issue is similar to one in another high-profile case. Angenette?
Yeah, Brian, this potential issue with juror Brandon Mitchell just came up in the last week or so. There are questions about whether or not he answered his juror questionnaire truthfully, and it's a similar issue to one that's going on with a juror right now in Scott Peterson's case.
So many of us, by the time we walked into the deliberation room, we were ready for a guilty verdict.
A week after Chauvin trial juror Brandon Mitchell granted interviews, a photo of him wearing a T-shirt marked "Get your knee off our necks" came to light. Mitchell told the Minneapolis Star-Tribune the photo was taken last August at a Martin Luther King Jr. commemoration in Washington, D.C., where George Floyd's family spoke briefly. Mitchell told the newspaper he answered no on his questionnaire to two questions, one asking whether he or someone close to him participated in demonstrations against police brutality in Minneapolis. A second asked whether a juror or someone close to them participated in protests about police brutality. Defense attorney Mark Garagos sees similarities to the Scott Peterson case.
They're very similar in terms of what the allegations are.
Garagos represented Peterson at his trial for the deaths of his wife Lacey and unborn son Connor in 2002. Peterson was sentenced to death. Questions have arisen about juror Rochelle Neese in that case.
In the Peterson case, that particular juror on the questionnaire did not answer a question correctly, now claims she didn't know what a lawsuit was.
Neese had been the victim of domestic violence while she was pregnant, and a hearing will be held to determine whether Peterson will get a new trial based in part on the issue with Neese. Peterson's supporters describe Neese as a stealth juror, someone who comes in with an agenda.
You want to make sure you don't have anybody who seems too eager to get on. But it's really tricky because these stealth jurors tend to know what to say to get on. They tend to moderate or temper their answers. They know to say they should be fair and impartial.
Jury consultant Alan Turkheimer has written a blog about Mitchell and doesn't necessarily see him as a stealth juror. But Mark Garagos says there could be other issues with Mitchell, the questionnaire and jury selection.
If the prosecution knew, that's misconduct. If the defense didn't and missed it, that's a problem. If, in fact, there was something on the questionnaire that wasn't true, that's the problem. So there's a lot of investigation that needs to be done.
An investigation of this potential issue is likely what is going on right now. Now, Derek Chauvin's attorney, Eric Nelson, has requested a hearing from Judge Cahill on this potential issue of juror misconduct. And right now, it's just a potential issue. We don't know if there was misconduct. And a spokesperson for the Minnesota Attorney General's office told me that they would have no comment on juror number 52, and that is Brandon Mitchell. Brian?
Thanks, Angenette. Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Adam Conta and Terri Austin. Adam, so far, as Angenette said, we got to look a little bit more, but so far I don't see a problem with Mitchell's answer. I see a very weak and narrow question by the attorneys because Mitchell protested voter rights in D.C., according to him, so he would be right to say no in the questionnaire to those other two questions, right?
Well, sure, but the shirt he was wearing, I mean, it says, it specifically references, it seems to reference Chauvin's conduct. I still don't think it's an issue that's going to overturn and get Officer Chauvin a new trial. I don't see that happening. I mean, this wasn't a heated jury deliberation situation where he was the deciding factor and convinced other people. I mean, you essentially heard from the get-go that 11 people went in there ready to convict in 30 seconds. But let them do their due diligence. I think ultimately this is going to be a prosecutor that didn't know about it and a defense who didn't do their due diligence on checking up on it.
Agreed. Now, Terri, Mitchell was pretty forthcoming with his feelings about the concept of Black Lives Matter, and still the defense kept him. Do you think Mitchell's a stealth juror?
I don't think he's a stealth juror. I mean, frankly, he was pretty obvious about his potential as a juror, because he did say he believes that Black Lives Matter do matter, and that, you know, for a fact, he said that he thinks that all people should be treated equally. So I think the defense realized and understood that he has that position. There should be an investigation, and I think it is a claim that defense can make, but I agree, I don't think they are going to prevail in this matter, because the issue came up, they talked about it, and the T-shirt at the demonstration really had very little to do directly with Black Lives Matter and had more to do with Martin Luther King. So, you know, it's an issue, but I don't think it'll be appealed.
Now, Angenette, what is the status of the juror issue in the Scott Peterson case?
Well, actually, an evidentiary hearing is going to be held about Rochelle Neese. And you probably remember her. She was very colorful, very flamboyant after that trial, very outspoken. And Mark Garrigus said she was actually writing letters to Scott Peterson at San Quentin. That's part of the appeal. And there is a deadline this week for some filing of documents. And the California Supreme Court said that there needed to be a new penalty phase based on some issues with the trial. And that happened last year. But now it's possible that this evidentiary hearing about the juror could lead to an entire new trial in the guilt phase.
Interesting.
Brian?
Thanks for that. And now for another top legal story, let's turn to Terri Austin.
A police officer in New York City is being hailed as a hero for rescuing a little girl who was shot this weekend in Times Square. The NYPD says 31-year-old Farrakhan Muhammad is wanted for shooting 3 people after an argument with his brother on Saturday. 3 bystanders were wounded, including a 4-year-old girl out toy shopping with her parents. Newly released body cam video shows the moment Officer Alyssa Vogel heard a child was injured. She jumped into action, scooping the girl up, wrapping a tourniquet around her leg, and taking her to an ambulance.
I think there's a baby down that way.
Quick thinking by New York's finest. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, the 3 men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery get a trial date. But first, a former Florida cop is on trial accused of framing unsuspecting drivers of carrying drugs. Opening statements are just after the break. Welcome back. In Florida, a former sheriff's deputy is on trial accused of planting drugs on unsuspecting innocent people. 26-year-old Zachary Wester started working in law enforcement in 2015 for the Liberty County Sheriff's Office. He resigned 9 months later, but on the very same day, Wester was hired by the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the same office where his father led the department's drug enforcement effort. Prosecutors say they noticed discrepancies between his reports and body camera footage. According to the state, Wester would ask to search a person's car during routine traffic stops and then place white packets containing meth, unlawfully sending them to jail.
You'll hear some of them, like Miss Odom, ask for some kind of testing. I mean, right there in the moment, you'll see it on the video. They'll ask for if there's any chance or possibility to get DNA testing on the item, fingerprints. Some of them even ask to provide a drug test right there roadside. Now, that's not what patrol deputies do, but you're going to hear that on the video. And just like Ms. Odom, the defendant he makes a choice to not document those things in his reports, but you will see them on the videos. You're going to hear that during the investigation of this case, the state and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement did that to the extent we could. And you're going to hear testimony in a few days about that and whether or not that was able to really show much. It's up to you to decide during this case what value to place on it. But you will hear that not one of those victims' fingerprints were found on those baggies.
The defense, however, pointed the finger at investigators for a slow investigation, which they say proves their client's innocence.
Let's talk about the search of the troll card that Mr. Wester was using. You heard the state say that they believe the evidence is going to show around mid-July, late July, early August is when they recommend FDLE take over the investigation of this case. And you're going to hear from the case agent, Ms. Chase. She went and she gathered up all kinds of evidence. All these reports, everything from, the sheriff's office, from the state attorney's office, gathering everything she could about all these cases, looking into everything. Why didn't she, or why didn't FDLE search his car? They had taken over the investigation at that point. That car sat there for 4 to 5 weeks before it was searched.
Back with us to break down the alleged drug planting cop is criminal defense attorney Adam Conta and Terri Austin. Terri, the prosecution really hasn't given a motive for why Wester would plant these drugs. Do you think one is even needed here with all the video evidence, though?
It's not needed, but it's always a good idea to have a motive. You want the jury to hang on to something and to understand why the defendant is actually doing this. I mean, if they have to think about it, and perhaps there'll be more evidence later down the line, maybe he just wanted to have more arrests, and so he was planning all of these drugs. Or maybe we do know that his father was in the police force, so perhaps he wanted to make sure that he was doing as good a job as his family did, as his father before him. So we'll see what happens. But yes, it's a good idea to have a motive, even if you don't need it.
Absolutely. Now, Adam, I can hear the defense attorney in the opening statements, but I'm not sure how much of a defense is here. Do you see a defense in this case, or is it just a long plea allocution where Wester could face up to 20 years?
I don't know. I mean, I watched some of this trial earlier today, and I think the defense attorney is actually doing a good job. I think he's a competent defense attorney. But the facts are the facts. And what they're going to say is, well, you don't exactly see on the video, so you don't know for sure, and that's doubt. That's what they're going to go with, I think. But my God, Brian, this guy is accused of doing this to 100 people at least, and that's just the ones he's accused of. Who knows how many he hasn't been caught for doing? One woman had her kids taken away because of this. I mean, this is an important trial. This should be on the front page of papers across the country. One bad cop can cause so much damage in a community, and this is a prime example. This should be getting just as much attention as the George Floyd case, and it sickens me to my core to see that this is happening. But the flip side of that, he's caught, he's getting tried, and hopefully there'll be a stiff punishment to follow.
I would agree and follow those sentiments with you, Adam. Thank you. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, an Ohio man accused of murdering, dismembering, and then burning his roommate takes the stand. Plus, why Ahmaud Arbery's accused killers will be seeing the inside of 2 different courtrooms. We will tell you how soon on the other side of this break. We're back. A judge has now set the trial date for the 3 defendants in the Ahmaud Arbery case. Gregory and Travis McMichael are facing 9 charges, including malice murder for the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery last February. A third man, William Rody Bryan, is charged with boxing Arbery in while filming the incident. They're now set to stand trial together this October.
I told him stop till he hit me. I had nothing to do.
A federal grand jury indicted the 3 men last month for interference with rights and attempted kidnapping. Both McMichaels are facing federal charges of using guns to inflict violence. They're scheduled to appear in federal court for the first time on Tuesday.
The guy turns and comes at him, and they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him around the damn chest. The guy was trying to take the shotgun away from him.
In state court, defense attorneys for the men are asking to disqualify the special prosecutor appointed, forced the state to reveal any deals made with its witnesses, and are objecting to jailhouse calls from the defendants coming into trial. The defendants are due back in court for a motions hearing this Wednesday. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Adam Conta and co-host Terri Austin to discuss the upcoming trial. Now, Terri, the governor of Georgia, Governor Kemp, is replacing and repealing the 1863 citizens arrest law after the death of Ahmaud Arbery. What are your thoughts on that move?
You know, I think it's a great move, Brian. The bystanders can no longer make an arrest in Georgia if a crime is committed in their presence. And I think that is just the right initiative to take. And apparently it passed in the Georgia House and Senate by overwhelming votes. So I think they're moving in the right direction. There are some who actually said that this was an old, obviously, 18th century law that was passed because they wanted to see if they could lynch, and they did actually escape slaves. So I think it's a great idea, and I think that it, the family has actually said that it's the mother said it was a great birthday present for Ahmaud Arbery, who just would have had a birthday this past weekend.
Now, Adam, the defense is trying to keep out jailhouse calls from the defendants. What are your thoughts on what could be there in terms of incriminating information?
I mean, I don't know. Anytime I hear there's jailhouse calls that are getting admitted, I'm nervous. There's really no way that I know to really keep them out. I mean, they're your client who said them on a line that they know is recorded. That's a pretty difficult bar to overcome. So if they figure out a way to keep out jailhouse calls, I would love to know it, because I think we could all use it. But yeah, it's never something that makes you feel good when a prosecutor says, oh, by the way, we're going to be putting in some jailhouse calls. Yeah,
they may go to intent, they may go to state of mind at the time, but they're never a good thing for the defense. And I agree, I don't think they're going to come out. Thanks, Adam and Terri. When we come back, an Ohio man accused of murdering his roommate takes the stand. The shocking allegations Michael Dixon is now admitting to, and why he says it was all in self-defense. Next. Welcome back. An Ohio man on trial for allegedly killing his roommate and burning his body to hide the evidence took the stand in his own defense. Michael Dixon is charged with murdering, dismembering, and then burning the remains of his roommate, Jim Whitaker. On the stand, Dixon admitted to killing Whitaker, but says it was in self-defense. Dixon is also charged with sexually assaulting his 18-year-old daughter. Dixon told the jury he was snorting meth with Whitaker on July 4th last year. Dixon says Whitaker got his gun and told Dixon his daughter couldn't leave with him. That's when Dixon says he went downstairs to get his own gun.
When I got back to the top of the steps, I could see the top part of his head, and I shot him.
Where was Melody at the time you got up the stairs?
At the time, I didn't know, but she was in front of Jimmy on the floor and he had the gun pointed at her head.
Okay. So you saw that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear him saying anything to Melody?
No.
Okay. Did you hear anything else?
No.
When you got up the stairs, what made you feel at that point it was necessary to shoot?
I'm really not sure.
Okay. Did you hear anything that would have made you think that your life was in danger?
I heard the safety on his gun go click off.
Okay, well, that's a really important detail that I think we need to explore. So when you got upstairs, you heard a safety click off?
Yep.
Dixon says he used a sled for moving deer after hunting to bring the body outside and waited until he thought the coast was clear to begin the burn.
The way I took it out, I went and got the deer sled, put him on like a shower curtain in a blanket, rolled him over, put the sled over top of him and flipped him on it and drug him out. It wasn't impossible, or trying to have been impossible. Yes, it was hard, but it wasn't impossible, like Detective Robinson said.
Why would you burn the body afterward?
I wasn't thinking about it. All I was thinking about was try to cover it up. I was on meth.
And you understand that by trying to cover it up, that's led to a litany of other charges, correct?
Yes.
But you said you were on meth?
Yep.
Now you understand use of drugs is not an excuse for your behavior, right?
No, it's not.
Okay. Are you just simply explaining?
Yep.
About how long did it take for this to burn?
I burnt the fire probably 10, 15 days.
Okay. For quite a while?
Yes.
And you heard the testimony from the anthropologist that some of the bones looked as if they'd been cut. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you cut any part of the body up?
No.
You did not?
Nothing, no.
Okay. So when you brought it out to the fire pit, you brought it out just as it was?
Yep, the whole body.
Hear this one last time as Adam and Terri. Adam, sometimes a defendant takes a stand because their testimony is the entire case. Other times, it's a Hail Mary that gets a strong prosecution case. Which one do you think it was here?
I think it's the entire case. I think this is a very interesting defense. I think it's a good one. And when you have to take yourself out of the mindset of what would a normal person do, and he's saying, wait, put yourself in the mindset of where I was at on meth. I think it can all of a sudden look a lot more logical. And I think it's very interesting. I have no idea which way this one's going to go, but I could absolutely see him being acquitted of murder.
All right, so Adam thinks there's some reasonable doubt there. Terri, do you think Dixon's testimony created any reasonable doubt in this case?
I think it created some doubt. I don't think it created reasonable doubt. And here's why. He tried to cover up this killing, and he took the body, he chopped it, he burned it, he tried to bury it. I mean, there's just so much, and it's consciousness of guilt. Yes, he can have a claim for self-defense, but when you try to cover it up, I think it makes it far more difficult for the jury to think that you are innocent. So I don't think at the end of the day he's going to get an acquittal. I think we'll see that this is a guilty verdict.
Yeah, of course, there's different charges there. I think he's trying to aim to beat the top count there and admitting to the lower one, so we'll see how it goes. Terri, Adam, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.